us now, the driver of the number 26, Gainbridge Honda for Andretti Autosport with Kerr Bagajanian. It is none other than Colton Herta, a win last year, a couple poles, a couple podiums. Look to capitalize on that, do a little bit better and do more and chase the championship and the Indy 500 and all that good stuff. And, oh, by the way, you're back at a car on Thursday. So can't wait, I'm sure, right?
Yes. Super glad to be back. The off season always feels so long, and then all of a sudden we're here again. So good to be back.
And then you blink and it's going to be Laguna.
Exactly. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Tell us some changes in the team, obviously heading into 2023. How does that shake out so far for you guys?
So far, so good. Happy to meet and see all the guys again, and just happy to be here and get stuck in.
Did I see you run vacation? Was it Disney World? Where were you guys?
I went to Disney World with Joseph and Scott in between Daytona.
Yeah. You traumatized by that, or?
No, it was actually all right. It was all right.
All right.
They took good care of me.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
You're a Disney guy. You're a big Disney guy?
Not as big as Joseph, but it's fun to go.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
That's a good point. All right. Questions in person, and we see a couple more virtually. We'll begin with Bruce Martin. Go ahead, Bruce.
Colton, how have you managed to block out all the noise? Because when we're not talking about what's going on in IndyCar, we're talking about Andretti Global trying to get into Formula One. You've done very good at blocking out all the noise. Does that get difficult from time to time?
No, it's very easy to just not pay attention to it. I don't know how I do it or don't do it, but I just don't put much effort into thinking about it.
But if you don't, by doing that, if you didn't do that, how much would it really count?
I don't know. I've never let it get to me. So it's never been a problem.
Nate?
Kind of following up on that a little bit, Colton, how big a year is this for Andretti Autosport, knowing that, you guys have driver movement, you're coming off a year that didn't go exactly well. And as Bruce said, there's a lot of attention on Andretti and all of its plans for other series. How important is this IndyCar being the anchor of Andretti Autosport to have a big rebound year?
It's very important. It's no secret that last year was not a good one for us, and we need to do better on all fronts. And that's what the main part of the off season has been. It's been looking at everything and just trying to improve everything. We just need mistake-free weekends, and that's the goal, one by one.
Is that mostly what you found, that it's just a matter of execution, that the foundation's there?
Yeah, we just can't make mistakes.
Alex was in here earlier, Rossi, and was talking about you kind of becoming the leader. I think you already maybe were kind of inheriting the leadership mantle with your success the last few years, but now with him gone, you're kind of like the dean of the team at 22 years old. How does that feel?
It's not much of a difference for me. Maybe they'll rely a little bit more on my feedback, and I might have to do a little bit more, but for me, it's kind of business as usual.
So no change in style or vocal?
Not really. No.
Go ahead. Here. Mary, come to you.
Colton, let's just say, the team comes to track and the car just isn't that great when it rolls off the trailer. What can you do, like on a road course weekend, to kind of catch up to everybody else?
Yeah, it's hard on a weekend that you don't roll off the truck good, because everybody tend to make steps every session, so you always tend to be a little bit far behind. But you really need to hone in on the biggest problems and try to tackle those. Luckily, we haven't really rolled off the truck this year and been terrible. We've just been missing a little bit in some of the parts, and a tenth or two, and that's enough to qualify 5th or 13th. So
let's take a couple off of Zoom. Tim Harani from TSN standing by. Tim, go ahead, sir.
Hey, thanks very much, Dave. Hey, Colton, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. In the off season, how much did you and I guess Nathan O'Rourke actually work together? Did you work a lot with your engineers in the off season, or was it just basically once you were done with IndyCar, that was it?
No, I don't think anybody really does that in IndyCar. It is still a full-time job. And especially after some of the disappointing results of last year, we definitely needed to figure out why and what we could do better from our side of things. So a lot of intensiveness of going through each race and seeing what was the problem on that race week and why could we not figure it out in the time frame that we had, and how are we going to do it differently when we come back.
I've had some questions already about, being a team leader this season now that Alex is gone. When you first came into IndyCar, I mean, in your first 2 seasons, were you learning a lot from like the likes of, say, Ryan Hunter-Reay? And if so, did you take anything in terms of leadership, I guess, away from what he was able to teach you?
I mean, the guys like that, the leadership pretty much entails just being smart and really good at setup work. That's a big thing. You go to a place like the 500 and I don't have a ton of time there. I still have a lot of time, but not as much as a lot of these guys have. And so they know a lot of different tips and tricks and what they're looking for in the car where, I'm fairly confident that I know what I'm looking for, but so there's a little bit of an adjustment period there. That's probably like the biggest difference is or the most helpfulness that you could bring would be setup work and your experience through that.
Last one for me. Sorry about the F1 question. I have to ask, have you had any more discussions on a testing role with either McLaren or AlphaTauri?
No, not at the moment.
Great. Thanks very much, Colton. Have fun tomorrow. Thanks for your time.
Thanks,
Dave.
Okay, Tim. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Alex Gins from frontstretch.com. Go ahead, Alex.
Thanks, Dave. So, Colton, your relationship with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500 has been something that I've really enjoyed watching over your career. I was in Japan and stayed up until 4 a.m. to watch your qualifying run, the 2019 Indy 500, and that was ridiculously impressive. And then your luck's been a little bit mixed. We saw you had that big airborne crash last year. Coming into your 5th full-time season, I believe it is now, what has your relationship with the Indy 500 looked like, and what do you think it's going to take to put together that all-important full weekend performance at the 500?
It's not been a great one, to be honest. I think my best finish there is like 6th or 7th. So definitely not satisfied with how competitive I've been during the race, during the 500. Practice, we've looked good, have qualified really well there in the past, but for some reason the race kind of eludes me. So really understanding on evolution and of the track from the first day all the way up until through the race, and what I need to stay on top of. That's like the biggest thing for me.
And moving into this more of a team leader role at Andretti Autosport, is there anything that you would offer an incoming driver to the team advice-wise about the event that you would consider unique to you or a bit of a hidden gem maybe?
No, not really. Nothing that comes to mind. I think if something stands out, then I would mention it, but no, nothing that really comes to mind.
Thank you, Colton. Good luck.
Thanks.
Let's go back in person. Nate Ryan from NBC Sports.
So the addition of Kyle Kirkwood to the team, how well do you know him? And I don't know, I think he's a little bit older than you. Have you guys raced together in series in the past? Or?
He was always a little bit behind me in cars, but I raced against him in go-karts. I believe last year was the first time I ever raced against him in a car. But yeah, seems like a really quick driver. He's won a lot of stuff on his way up to IndyCar, and it's hard to judge off of what he did last year, right? So this year you'll have a better understanding of how fast he is, I think.
Is it good maybe that he had that transitional year before he comes here?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're looking at it from Michael's perspective, to get like rookie mistakes out of the way in somebody else's machinery than his is valuable for him. But yeah, I think we'll see a much more rounded driver, and I feel like that's your biggest gain in the IndyCars from your rookie year to your second year. Everything else seems like minimal gains. But if you can put a good season together in your second year, it shows how much you've improved for sure.
Pato was in here earlier, and he was saying that IndyCar is sort of different from a lot of other series, and that it's not like F1 where they build a car and the drivers have to adapt to it. IndyCar can be a lot more kind of their own sort of adaptable little area. Can you speak to that at all? Is that how Andretti kind of works with having so many drivers that each kind of gets their own autonomy over the car?
I mean, yeah, I think we share similar things, but there might be minor differences between a guy that likes a car a certain way and a guy that likes a car a certain, understeer or oversteer, or maybe they're more pitch sensitive than another guy. So you might have some minor changes in setup because of that. And you learn that throughout the year, right? Like in the past 4 seasons, I learned what I liked and didn't like that Alex would do with his setup. And so it's something that you kind of learn from over time.
Last one for me, the testing Thursday, Friday at Thermal, the track obviously you guys haven't been to before, you're not going to race at. What do you feel like you guys can accomplish there? What are you going there to accomplish? And, what do you know about that track and IndyCar being there?
Don't know much about the place. I've never been here before. It looks like an interesting track. I've only seen very little video on it, but tomorrow we'll have, full debriefs and whatnot on the track and what we expect to do for the next upcoming days. But the biggest thing is just having a place that you can knock the rust off. And I haven't really seen the runoff and what that looks like, if it's enough room and not, but hopefully it is, because, you two tend to drop a wheel here and there, have a spin if you're getting back in the car for the first time in a few months.
Nathan.
Colton, these last couple of years, you've had ones where you've been contending for a potential championship. I know last year wasn't what you wanted it to be. On a year where things are just kind of a little off, at what point in the season did you feel like you just didn't feel like this was maybe the same type of year that you might have had the last couple?
I'm not too sure. I was always hopeful going to the track, and every weekend, it was a full reset. So I never felt like I was going to the track and just doomed, like I wasn't going to do good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like during the races, we struggled. Qualifying, we seemed to struggle a little bit. My average qualifying was, I think, like 4.2 positions worse than it was the year before. And that affects you big time in the races as well, right? If you're not qualifying up front as consistently, just giving yourself more work. So one lap pace, I think we can improve on, and definitely in the race also.
Did you come away this offseason with your work with Nathan and the team at large feeling like you guys were able to figure some things out? And a kind of a second part to that, when you're coming to a track like Thermal where you've never been here, no one's tested on this track before, it's not a track that we're going to at some point later in the year, you feel like this is a place where you can pick up or know for certain if you guys are on the same page or have something to work on before we get to St. Pete?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to say. I think timing here is going to be hard to judge. I'm not too sure. If the track feels similar to a place, then maybe there's some relevancy. But as far as grip level and whatnot, I'm really not sure what to expect. It could be that it helps us for a place like, who knows, Barber or Indy, because it has a similar feeling, or it could just be irrelevant to us in the progression of making the cars better. But nice to get track time.
A couple drivers have mentioned that they've gone to the level of watching some YouTube videos of just kind of cars going on around the track because there's no simulators with the track on it. Have you done anything like that, or are you really coming in pretty blind tomorrow?
I've seen some onboards. Yeah, it's difficult to watch some of the onboards because it's not really professional drivers, right? And they have like cones set out on the track where to turn in and where to get on the brake, so it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, I watched a little bit before I got too bored and turned away. But the track walk will be important. That's going to be the biggest thing.
How often did it take before you got bored?
What?
How often did it take before you got bored watching the
I think
video?
by like the third lap of some rich dude in a Ferrari. I was like, all right.
Steve, did you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, when you have a difficult weekend, is there someone that you turn to that you talk to and talk that weekend through with, or do you
it's really just Nathan? Yeah, no, me and Nathan really have to go over and I think we're both, what our strong suits are pointing fingers at ourselves and saying what was wrong. And that way it's easy to get better when you can blame yourself. And that's what I always try to do. Even if, I get taken out, you can always thumb it down to yourself. How did you get in that position? How did you let somebody get that close to you? Were you making a mistake? Was the car not good enough? Why was the car not good enough? You not do a good enough job in practice. So you can always somehow turn it around into yourself. So you can always learn from something.
Is there a danger to that of, getting into a negative cycle of always blaming yourself?
No, because I don't blame myself. It's lighthearted.
Let's go back to Nate. You have just a couple minutes left.
You mentioned Colton knocking the rust off at thermal. I presume you did a lot of that the last 2 weeks, though, at Daytona. Like, how did that feel? Even though at BMW I didn't have the race you wanted, did it feel good to make some laps?
Yeah, it's great to get in the car and push the pedals. It's obviously a very different feeling than driving an IndyCar, but the same principles. So it's nice to kind of get in the mode of doing your debriefs and feeling the car out and whatnot. It's the perfect way to kind of gear up for the season, I feel.
Are you set for endurance races with them?
I only do at the moment. I'm only planning for the 24. Mm-hmm.
David.
Hi, Colton. Wanted to ask if was there a particular focus on tracks last year that you felt maybe caused you guys to fall behind on other tracks? Like we saw, obviously, the Indy road course, which had always been, a real bête noire for Andretti Autosport, and it suddenly became a really strong track for you. Do you think that other tracks, your work at other tracks suffered as a result of improving that?
It's tough to say. I think we struggled with the change of these red tires. And so road and street courses, we seemed to take a step back because of that. And so that was kind of the focal point of the off season, is understanding, what we're feeling in practice versus how much does that change in the race, and then having a setup correlate to that.
Anyone else for Colton? Otherwise, we'll get you back on schedule. Oh, sorry, did I miss one? I'm sorry. Let me get you the mic.
I'm riding for Detroit, and I just wonder if you could say a little bit about your anticipations for the new track there, and especially considering that you're so good on street circuits.
I haven't seen too much about the track. I've seen the layout, but I haven't seen the actual street that it's taking place on. Looks like an interesting layout. I think it's fairly basic with 90-degree corners, but it looks like it has some good setups for overtaking. I think the pit lane is going to be very interesting. It's like a split pit lane, right, with both sides. I hope to see how that goes, but it sounds interesting. But I'm looking forward to it. It's always great to go to Detroit, and I love racing on Belle Isle. I really love that street circuit. So it was a shame to see it go, but I'm happy that we're still going there in some capacity.
All right, that'll wrap it. 5 years. That fifth. Where is the time, elder statesman? That's right.